and welcome to the Think MHK podcast presented by the Manhattan Area Chamber of Commerce. On this podcast, you will hear from a variety of people from across the region, including community leaders and business owners. You will hear their Manhattan stories and hopefully get to know your friends and business associates a little better. Thanks for tuning in today. My guest today is Jan Miller. Jan is the owner and proprietor of Steve's Floral and one of my favorite people, and certainly a staple in downtown Manhattan. Jan, welcome to the Think MHK podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So one of the things that we always want to do with our guests is hear a little about their history and how they ended up in Manhattan. And so maybe talk a little bit about that before we get started.
Sure. I was born and raised in Frankfort, Kansas, a family of 7 on a farm. We raised livestock and crops, and it was a good life, a poor life, but a good life. My mother would always point out on the dining room table, this was all produced and fixed and made by us. And so I have a lot of pride in that background of a farming community. Went to Frankfort High School, and when I graduated, I went on to Cloud County Community College for a year. Transitioned to Manhattan with the intent of going to Kansas State University. And I did for a while, but I ended up getting a job at McCall Pattern Company. That was a $1.80 an hour job, but I loved my work. I loved what was happening there for me. Ended up staying for 20 years. So that's what brought me to Manhattan, and then on to Steve's Floral. Do you want me to talk about that?
Well, no, we might talk about that in a minute. So real quick, what did you do at McCall's Pattern?
A variety of things, but in a condensed version, sales, customer service, and computer room. Those were the 3 primaries. 10 years in sales and customer service, which actually transitioned to my life now. And computer room, I was one of the early bird women in that field, and worked first, second, and third shifts. So I had experience on them all, and supervisor on second and third. And
so McCall's has just a big history in Manhattan. Were you a little sad when they announced their closing a couple of years ago?
I was, yes. When we worked there, I have to say there was a lady when I first started. She was celebrating 3 years at McCall's. And I said, who in God's name would work 3 years at a company like? And then, of course, I ended up saying 20. I thought that was comical. But we always felt job security. Everybody's going to sew. This would be if the economy went south, at least you have that to fall back on. But what we didn't know, with notions and patterns and everything, would become much more expensive. And ready to wear became less expensive. So it was an interesting time as it transitioned through that.
And so you transitioned into a second career.
I did.
Talk about the history of Steve's and how you ended up being the owner and proprietor of that operation.
Well, in order to talk about that, I'm going to talk about my brother Steve.
Sure.
That's where the name comes from. Steve was a dual degree graduate from Kansas State University in architectural design, and also he did a lot of gardens and homes in Marshall and Nemaha County and even Riley County, did gardens and landscaping. He took a second degree of horticultural design at Kansas State University. And that's when I think he actually realized he had design talent. The professor commented on his talents many years later, that he was one of the very best that had ever come through his class. Steve went on to open a store, his first store in Marysville, Kansas, and that was in 1983. That was from 83 to 87, really learning and making mistakes, important to do when you start a new business. You learn by trial and error many times, and that's what he did.
And so why did he choose Marysville at that time?
Well, he needed a community big enough that might support a flower shop, but not so big you're overwhelmed.
And Marysville didn't have one, I assume, at the time.
Oh, they did.
Oh, they did.
Everybody had flower shops. So, yes, there were probably 2 or 3 in any community.
Okay.
But Steve's belief, and this is very important when it comes to small business and entrepreneurship, he said, we have something to offer. that is not being offered currently. And I believe that's where our importance will be. And so he opened in 83. It was a wonderful little shop, done differently than the store here in Manhattan. They didn't have a Walmart then, and so he could offer things that they just loved Steve. And he was a great designer, and he was in an area called the Atrium, and it shared it with a little coffee shop and a dress shop. And they had the best fun, and they had just wonderful years there. And so in 87, Steve, we had a family discussion. I helped him out a couple of days a week just to give him some time off to go to a wholesaler or something like that. I was working night shift at that time, so I could work during the day and he would run up. But it was just a couple of days that I would help out. He would run to Lincoln, Nebraska and get flowers and come back. So that was my first introduction into that. But in 87, he said, I think I'm ready to open another store. And he wanted to open in Manhattan. And he first looked at the mall, and it was just not appropriate. So we went and had coffee. It was my parents and myself and Steve. And we sat across from the current location at a Burger King at that time. And my father turned around and said, you need something small like there. And it had a for rent sign at 302 Poyntz Avenue. Our landlord at that time was Charles Elliott of Elliott Jewelers, a great landlord. And that's how the location was determined. That was in 87. We opened the same day the mall did. So every time the mall has an anniversary, we do too. And in about a little less than 3 years, we'll be celebrating 40 years.
Wow.
And so that'll be a big time to celebrate.
Yeah. So eventually you all opened on Point Street and in 1987. So then talk about then sort of the events of the next few years.
Sure. Well, I was at McCall's and working on an evening shift. I was able to help Steve somewhat, as family members do, and helped him set up a shop and worked occasionally with him. Would go to a market once in a while. Steve ended up in 6 months after we opened the store. We found out he was diagnosed with a terminal illness. And when that happened, we didn't know how much time he had left, but continued to operate the store. As his life changed, a few months before he actually passed away, he spoke to me and he said, I need you to take over the store when I pass away. I said, you're crazy. You're crazy. I don't even know how else to say that. But I thought about it. I'd had my 20 years at McCall's, and I made him a deal. I said, if I can run it, and the reason he asked me to take it over was he said I still owe. He had borrowed money from a gentleman in Marysville who wanted him to stay in Marysville. And Steve said, but I need all my inventory. I need my equipment. He said, well, I'll pay you or loan you money so you can start your new establishment, but stay here. And so that's what Steve did. And that was $23,000. It's not what I would recommend back in those days, nor today. Too little money. But that's what was started. And he felt obliged to be able to repay that debt. And he said, I need you to do that for me. So I thought about it, and I told him, I said, I will do this. If I can maintain a look and a feel and everything about Steve's Floral that you started and would be proud of, if you ever walk back in here, I will keep that store open. If I find it goes south or we can't maintain this image and what you set out to accomplish, then I will close it.
So basically keeping his standards.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he said, it's a deal. And that's how we did it. And that was just a few months before he passed away. There are many stories in between because when you take over a business It has its challenges and highlights, as all businesses do.
So over the 40 years or nearly 40 years, why has Manhattan been a great place for Steve's Floral?
Oh, it's the best. When we were growing up in Frankfort, coming to Manhattan was the city. I love Manhattan. Always have. I've known since I was 18. Manhattan would make me happy for the rest of my life. I love to travel, and I do quite a bit of it. But Manhattan is the best. It was perfect. It was the city. When you came from a smaller community, even Marysville, it was the city to us. Where we ended up was a challenge, because when we moved to Manhattan to open that store, Poyntz Avenue looks different today than maybe what it did then. Very, very proud to be where it is today.
So not quite as vibrant maybe in the late 80s as it is right now.
That's right.
And the city's done a lot to make it that way, right? We've invested a lot of money to do that. But you all being down there as a consistent presence has been a really big part of that as well.
Yes. In 2008, I had a different landlord at that time, and I had wanted to own the property at the corner of 3rd and Poyntz, and went to that gentleman and asked if I could purchase it, and eventually he sold it to me. So this was in 2008 when there was a recession on, and pretty much any business that wanted to do good business was in the mall. They had all left. So Poyntz was pretty empty. It was a different time. What we see as AJ's Pizzeria today remained quite empty for a long, long time. It was just a different world down then. But I was fortunate enough to be able to buy the building. And it's now a very prosperous corner, and downtown. Downtown is spectacular. It's beautiful.
Yeah, people always comment when they visit, for whatever reason, how great our downtown is. And of course, the Wing Line is in your building as well, and that's always one that people remark on as being a treasure for Manhattan, as well as Steve's Floral. So you all have done a great job on that area. Yeah. So you were recently named the winner of the Chamber's Women and Minority-Owned Business Award. So talk a little bit about what that meant to you and to the people there at Steve's Floral.
Oh gosh, it was an honor to be nominated.
And you were nominated once before.
I was. And that was spectacular. So I was quite surprised when I won it this year, but I was very honored, humbling. This type of recognition is really needed. I think it's vital to this category that's offered. It helps in fostering that entrepreneurship that we need in our community. And by recognizing this group of women and minorities, it's so important and so vital to us.
So the Chamber, obviously, and you mentioned entrepreneurship, we spend a lot of time promoting small business and entrepreneurship. Of course, we have Small Business Saturday every year that we do a lot of recognition for. Why do you think entrepreneurship and small business is so important to communities?
Well, I feel very strongly about all of that. The economic development we bring to our communities, the jobs we bring to this community, the support we bring to this community. You can't go to the big box stores and ask for the support that we're able to give as a small business to our local community in so many ways. And that's a big deal.
And of course, we know across the country, most new jobs are created by small business, and we see a similar trend in Manhattan in that as well. So what are some of the things as a business owner in Manhattan that you're most proud of in your nearly 40 years here? I know we were talking before we started recording. You have probably participated in how many weddings? Thousands of weddings, right? So you've probably seen people
Yes.
get married and watch those families flourish. But is there something in particular that you're proud of as a business owner?
I'm so proud of Steve's Floral. I am so proud of the staff that I have, that the longevity of them makes me feel very, they're with me a long time, and we become a family. And I've had some of the most wonderful, wonderful people to work with. I'm proud of Manhattan. I'm proud of our downtown. The changes we've seen through the years there have been some challenges and changes, and I'm quite proud of those. For example, we decided to do away with the wire service within our business known as, there's Telefloral, FTD, 1-800-Flowers, that, for example. We found that to be a successful business, you really need to be independent. And to do that, you really need your own website. Mm-hmm. So we went on a limb. It's very scary. It's very expensive and very scary to do that. A lot of flower shops are still struggling with that idea. But to truly be an independent flower shop, it was the most important thing for me to do. So we had a website created, and we took that leap. It's like diving off a cliff because you don't know. You counted on all those orders coming in through the wire service, and you think, oh my gosh, everybody's got to be able to see our website and order through that. And so it was very challenging. But today it's quite successful and very wonderful.
Well, good.
Yeah.
Well, that is quite an accomplishment. So
we started I had given a leadership talk at Kansas Farm Bureau a number of years ago. And in it, they talked about our customer service, which is one of the things that's vital to any thriving business. And they asked about our customer service. And I said, well, one of the things we do is we take a photograph before we send a casket piece out to the funeral home so the family knows what they're getting before it arrives. And when I left that meeting, I'm walking out in the parking lot, and I thought, well, wouldn't everybody like to see their photo or a photo? And at moment, when those moments happen and you are able to take them and make them actually work, it's life-changing. Yeah. And that's part of our process now is we do photography for all our clients, and it's the best thing we've ever done. So they see it before it ever gets delivered. They know what's going out. They can be proud of it. If they want to change, they have the opportunity to make a change, and it's really great.
That's cool.
Yeah.
You've been a part of the Chamber for a long time, which we appreciate. One of the unusual things about Steve's Floral, you also have been active in Advantage Manhattan, which is our economic development program, and we don't get a lot of small retailers that do that. That typically tends to be some of the larger businesses. But talk about why being engaged with the Chamber and engaged in economic development has been important to you.
Well, back to Marysville days, one of the first things Steve did when he was in Marysville was join the Chamber of Commerce. That was important. And of course, the first thing we did when we opened the store in Manhattan, he joined the Chamber of Commerce. I can't say how important that is. I had a group of K-State college students last week come in and talk about the store. And I brought that subject up about being a member of organizations. There's many out there, Rotary, and there's so many. And I said, that's what we thrived on. This was our connection. This was how we got to know and made this big city into a small community by getting to know other people. And I said, for us, I don't know where the future goes for young people. We see a tendency not to want to do meetings as much and so on and so forth. But I said, you will miss a big, vital need to be a successful business without that connection if you aren't joining in some manner. And the Chamber was very strong for us. Chamber board, all of it. It just opened so many doors, and it made it into a great community.
What do you think Steve would think about the success that you've had over the 40 years?
Oh, my goodness. He's on my board of directors. Now, I have a weird board of directors, but Steve's ahead of it. And so he's very proud of me and of that business. He said, good job. Good job. My parents are on that board of directors and a deceased brother. My parents, my father would say, take a risk. He's the one that encouraged me to buy the property downtown. He said, take a risk. Lord help us. I've taken many over the years, big leaps and bounds. My mother would say, there's two groups in this world, the one you know, the one you don't. Take a chance. Go visit with the people you don't know. It's been a wonderful thing. My other brother, would say, have a backbone. Don't be afraid to say no. And they're my board of directors, along with a great banker and a great lawyer.
Yeah. Well, it's great that you can carry those things with you in your everyday life. So, well, Jan, we are at the end of the formal part of our interview. We are moving now to the infamous rapid fire section of our program. And we have 10 questions that we're going to be asking you to hopefully get to know you a little better. This is actually, I get more comments on this from people. One of the most popular things that we've done since I've been at the Chamber, people really like hearing about people's, I think, personal interests and personal life. So are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. So number one, do you have any hidden talents?
I do. I can bake pies like nobody's business. Very good ones. Usually 2-crust pies. I don't do it so much anymore these days, but won awards and very good pie baker. I asked my father one day, I said, what's your favorite pie? He said, hot and cold.
that seems like
works.
A perfect deal. Describe your perfect day.
A perfect day. I feel like I have them all the time anymore. I wake up and I'm healthy and I am able to think and do and contribute, and it's wonderful. That's a perfect day. But a perfect fun day is going up to Frankfort with family, eating homemade food, drinking bourbon slush, and playing poker. And
that does
love
sound like
that.
A fun day.
And pitch.
All right. What job did you want as a kid?
Anything that paid. Babysitting was basically what I did as that, but I was raised in a time frame where it was you'd be a legal secretary someday, get married and have children. My world turned out totally different.
And what was your first job?
Actually, McCall Pattern Company, other than the babysitting. Mm-hmm. It was $1.80 an hour, like I said.
All right.
Crazy.
Who inspires you the most and why?
My board of directors.
Makes sense. What is your most prized possession?
My health.
That is a good one. What skill would you most like to learn?
Another language would be great. I took French in high school, but I would embrace that. But we'll see how it goes someday.
Yeah, I always say that too, but I just never can make myself do it.
Right.
Where is the coolest place or most interesting place that you've traveled?
A year ago, went to London, and I loved London. I would go back. I hope to go back many times. I really loved it.
I've heard that. What is one question you wish people would ask you less?
When are you going to retire?
Yeah, I thought that might be it. Do you prefer working remotely or in the office, or in your case, in the store?
In the store.
That was an easy one. I knew that was coming.
Absolutely.
So, well, you aced that. So you may have got the best grade ever on the rapid fire. Jan Miller, thank you so much for being with us on the Think MHK podcast. And thank you for your consistent leadership at the Chamber and for all you do for the community and for being a huge part of our community.
Thank you so much, Jason. Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Think MHK, a podcast produced by the Manhattan Area Chamber of Commerce. If you enjoyed the Think MHK podcast, we'd love for you to subscribe and share it out on your social media channels. Feel free to reach out to us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram at the Manhattan Area Chamber of Commerce.